Welcome, everyone. It is 5:05. We would like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting for February 25th, 2025. Those who can, please rise and salute the flag. Where is the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a roll call.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Absent.
Mr. Anthony Caggiano.
Here.
Mr. John Kingston,
Here.
Mrs. Aisha Milbury Ellis,
Here.
Miss Jacqueline Monterosso,
Here.
Miss Frederick Sanala,
Present.
Mayor Patrick Keith.
Absent.
We have a quorum. It is the mayor's birthday today, so very happy birthday to him. He will not be able to attend. And Ms. Bronson Rizzo just received notice that her grandchild is being born. So she's on the way to the hospital. So we wish them all well wishes. That is why they are not here. So will go ahead and get started. As vice chair, I will be chairing today's meetings. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Any questions on the minutes from last month?
No.
Next are the warrants. Any questions? We'll try the best to answer them. We know Matt Cruz isn't here today, but questions on warrants and financial reports.
I do. Dr. Kelly, with all the talk in the news about Title I, any idea or give us a ballpark, like how much of our budget's Title I money, you know?
It's several $1 million.
Okay, I was just concerned because I've read a lot about that and I was a little concerned about if that was what's coming, for us.
Yeah, we're still hopeful that it is going to be forthcoming. We haven't heard as of yet that it's not.
So what do you think, like 2 to 3 is that an estimate?
We're not even hearing that it's gonna be reduced or
No, but
anything,
if it
but
was, I'm just trying to do a worst case.
worst case scenario would be that they pull back all of the title grants, which would be even more than that, because we receive funding from Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title VII.
Okay,
So if that happens, it would be devastating to the
Okay.
district, and
no, I was just curious.
we'd have to really think about a complete reorganization. But
Okay,
what I'm hearing in my state and federal circles is, even with the threats to dismantle the Department of Education at the federal level, that funding would still come into states and would be distributed in a manner similar to what it has been in the past. So we're all just gonna have to keep an eye on it. But right now, we've heard nothing that it's gonna be pulled back.
okay, thank you.
And we haven't had any promises, but some members of the legislature and the governor have mentioned the potential of using state rainy day funds if Title I is pulled to help cover the budget for the state once approved.
Thank you.
Since Matt's not here, but you are Mr. Kingston, I just wanted to ask where we are with the start of the fiscal year 26 budget and kind of what's the timeline for all of this.
We haven't had a meeting yet. Mr. Cruz, if he lets us know when he's at a good point to start, so when he
Okay.
does that, I'll schedule the Ways and Means
I think
Committee.
it's gonna be the next couple of BMI sometime.
Okay,
The last time I spoke to Matt about
He
it.
kind of sets the tone for when we want to start, and as soon as he asks us to meet, we'll meet.
perfect.
So I can give you some information on that. We've finished reconciling the turnover of the FY 25 into FY 26 for level funding services. The next step that we have to do, and we just got some data from the city that will help us finalize the proposal for Schedule 19, but we have to negotiate that with the mayor's office. And we're hoping to have that done in the next week, after which Matt will reach out to Mr. Kingston and schedule a budget subcommittee meeting.
Thank you so much. Anything else on finances? Okay, we have
No questions on these?
I already reviewed it.
Okay, all right.
we have nothing on food service financials or communications. Any questions on the enrollment update provided? I just want to say the last time we received this update, we requested class sizes for the high school, and I know that it's extra work. The high school is very big, so I appreciate you and your team, Dr. Kelly, taking the time to give us what the average looks like at the high school level.
No problem. Did you feel like this
Yes.
gave you what you needed? Yeah?
Yes.
I'll apologize if it's here and I don't see it, and I'll apologize in advance. Are we ahead, total, this year to last year, that type of, I know that, obviously the funding's based on number of students, so how are we
Yeah.
doing with?
And that's actually indicated on, the financial memo that Matt gave. If you go to the pages just before the enrollment numbers, we're actually down 48
Eight
students,
people.
from last year to this year.
Okay. Was that on more the high school level or just the regular one?
I would have to dig into it a little bit, but
Okay.
it's
Nice. I'm just curious if you know the. copy.
across.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm curious about.
Okay, any questions on personnel items? And then we'll move into the acceptance of donations. We have two, including the late communication, but good news, late communication is always great. So excited to see we got an award last minute as well.
Yeah, and so the first award should have come in your packet, and that was the early college support grant. We had already received the early college support grant itself. And then for whatever reason, Desi reached out and said they had a little bit more money. I don't know if one of the districts who initially had been given money for an early college program then withdrew. But we were able to apply for more funding. And so we're receiving an additional $30,000 through that early college support grant. And Ms. Finn, together with the guidance staff, are gonna use that to help kids complete the MyCap online program, which helps kids prepare for college or career and helps them identify areas of interest and what in their high school resume is going to accentuate certain applications and pieces like that. So that's very exciting.
Wonderful, great.
Otherwise, how would that work? Would students do students usually have to pay for that themselves, or is that something that we would put the bill on anyway?
It's kind of a hybrid of the both. What we can do is give the kids tutoring services to help them get through. So they have the MyCap already as a free resource from the state,
Mhm.
but this is gonna let us have kids have adults sit with them and
Oh,
work
okay.
through some things and
More
do more
personalized.
planning and help them, because a lot of kids might not understand what exactly what resources they do have available to them when they're making decisions about I want to go to college or I don't want to go to college or whatever the case may be. And so having somebody there with them to say, well, you can still go to college, you can do this, or if that's really what you're interested in, here's a program that is a technical college that can give you licensure in particular areas or, places like that.
Guidance.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. School field trips, any questions on these three exciting trips coming up? Okay, so they'll be approved in the next meeting when we approve the consent calendar. The next item.
Can I mention one more thing, Jackie? Sorry. Just the second grant under, was for the Fine Arts Department.
Mhm.
This was the late communication. We didn't get it on the agenda because we just received the final communication today, but this is gonna be $5,200, a reimbursement grant from the Riviera Cultural Council. And so that's gonna help fund a lot of the fine arts programming. And that lets, the purpose of the grant is to help kids access out of classroom arts experiences. So the plays, the concerts, all of those pieces that we have going on across the district, that helps Ms. Williams
Finance.
financing with all of that stuff.
Awesome.
Okay. And then the next item was requested by Mr. Kingston, an update on Chromebooks at the Susan B. Anthony School, so I'll pass it to you.
I had some parents reach out that the kids were assigned at SBA, the kids were assigned a research project, but there's no Chromebooks. I don't know if it's a budgetary problem or I don't know what, that's why I wanted to bring it up. If it's something that has to go to Ways and Means and we need to buy some more, but I guess there's a shortage of Chromebooks at SBA.
There's not, and I did reach out to Principal Willett to confirm that, and I don't know. Do you know who the parents were? I can have her reach out to them directly.
It was a phone call voicemail basically, and I couldn't really. I
Okay,
had 3 parents call me and say that their student was given a research assignment, but there's no Chromebooks. And I thought we pretty much had like 1-to-1 across the district, but that's not what they, were-
We do have one-to-one,
I know they don't all take them home, but it is
Correct.
available. But
Yeah,
my
right.
understanding is, yeah, that at SBA, there was an issue of, they didn't have them. Supposedly, one of them did go to the principal and they were told that, sorry, they didn't have enough.
one of the parents went to the principal?
Supposedly, yes, that's what the parents said. Parents said, that was the only, I didn't get a chance to call them back. I tried to call them back and I had no luck. There was just voicemails left on
Okay.
my phone.
Did they,
It came up as an unknown number, so I didn't answer. I didn't know who it was.
okay,
Yeah, and when I tried to call back, I had no luck and I left a message, but no one called me back. So
none of them left a name or anything?
it was more like a rant on the phone.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Well, I would say for, in case anybody's watching, at home, or if you get such a call again, they should be reaching out to the principal who can solve whatever problem they're having.
Agreed.
But there are more than enough Chromebooks, at all of the schools, including the Susan B. Anthony.
So like a
and they-
classroom would have a card or something?
Maybe not every single classroom, but I know that the math and science rooms all have a card. And then there are cards that any teacher can just sign out at any time.
Good.
So,
Alright. Yeah.
yeah, there's,
I'm just trying to respond to a, constituent.
Okay. That was it. Given that we're ending this one early, would folks be interested in moving agenda item 11A, which was discussion about attendance at the high school, to now? Or we can just end and save it all for 6 p.m.
Can we hear that?
Yes, because I don't think this
there's no
was,
vote, right?
there's no vote. It
That's
was
just new business, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so
Sure.
we, according to our regular meeting agenda, we'll move item 11A to this. This is also an item from Mr. Kingston, so I'll pass it to you.
My concern is, about students coming up every class. I live very close to the high school. I couldn't tell you how many cars. It's gotten so bad that there's cars on Beach Street. Kind of blocking the intersection of Beach Street and Central Ave coming to the high school well after school starts. And it's a lot of days. It used to, I've lived in the same place for a very long time, but it used to be just like on a rainy day, you'd see cars, but now it's every day. So there's no way these kids are getting to school on time. You can blame traffic, blame whatever, but they have to be late for first period. They have to be, because it's after the time school starts. So I'm just concerned about, the fact that they're not in school and they should be, and it's not like a snowstorm or something like that. It's not extenuating circumstances. It's almost every day.
Well, I can say that on days when I don't go to the office early, maybe say around like 9 o'clock, a little after 9, I've seen like groups of kids, not necessarily together, but that I know that they're going to school. I can't say it's all the time, but I've seen it myself on occasion. These kids are late for school, want to yell out the window, But,
Should.
oh, I know. But is there an issue with the kids being late that we need to look at, that there's something that we can do to make it clear that what the expectation is? I'm sure that you and your team are doing that, but if there's
Yeah.
something more that is needed from the school committee, then.
Yeah, no,
now's the
I
time
can,
to
I
talk
can
about
ask, we can do an analysis of attendance first period versus second versus third versus fourth. And look at it that way, but we still have the policy that if you're not present in class, you're not gonna pass the class. So,
But what about, so what about students who maybe come to first period and then skip second period or third period? Like, what is the intent? Does it show that they've been in school? Like, for these numbers that we're looking at, for our purposes, does it look like, well, they've been in school, even if they've only shown up to the first class?
no, they wouldn't get a daily attendance credit. They'd have to be in 3 periods to get a
To get a
daily
day,
attendance.
okay. That's-
But, there are also a lot more kids who are doing internships, dual enrollment,
Mm,
and that kind of stuff, and they don't necessarily do them at the end of the day. Some of them do them in the morning. And then come in later, and if
Okay.
they have a dual enrollment, like right now, there's a dual enrollment class happening across the hall from us. Those kids might not have to come in first period because they're taking their dual enrollment class right now in the evening. So there are a lot more programs that we have going on that would create flexibility as opposed to every kid's coming in at the same
Same time.
time and every kid's leaving at the same time. I'm sure you see a lot of kids leaving at 1 o'clock. That's the end of third period. And that's when the bulk of the kids go out to do their internships and
I
pieces
have
like
seen
that.
on both
Yeah.
ways,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Not every day, I'm
So-
not in the city every
so
day.
maybe if we could do that analysis of.
Yeah,
of the
I'll do
first
that
period,
analysis
and-
by
and just to see
period.
which one, and if you look at it and you say, hey, these kids are all in dual enrollment, or there's
Yeah.
justification for it, but if not, and there's an issue there that maybe we need to look closer at and, you know, do some further messaging, then.
Yeah. I will say that as a general trend, and this isn't just in Revere, it's everywhere. High school attendance has not returned to where it was pre-COVID.
Mhm.
And that, even at the elementary level, where we used to see we had so many kids who would have perfect
Perfect
attendance all the time.
attendance records.
People just have a different sensibility around, the need to send kids to school every day.
Mhm.
And that's something that principals have been reaching out to families directly
Yeah.
on those issues. And at the high school, the student engagement coordinators, the student support specialists have been reaching out to kids who are truant or coming late, any of those pieces, but we can definitely take a deeper dive and have that for next month.
Yeah, or maybe even if we schedule a subcommittee meeting under, whether it's policy or wherever else it falls, and we could have those people who are making those calls appear. And
Principals?
the liaisons who are.
Oh,
making
the
calls.
liaisons?
Cause yeah, I'd be interested to hear from them what the feedback is, like what they're getting from students and what they're getting from parents. Maybe that will give us an idea to brainstorm on ways in which we can engage them.
Okay, could we do that during the day, so it's on the work hours?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
And then along the lines of attendance, when is the next data submission to DESI on attendance?
There's one in March and there's one in June.
Would you be able to share that? I'm more curious about if attendance has dropped, given just changes at a national level with things, to see how, I know other districts around us have seen a sharp decrease on
Mhm.
January 20th, so I just want to see what the data shows.
Yeah, I can pull that together too. I can tell you anecdotally that I did, there was a media request. About exactly that question, if there's been a sharp decline. So I compared our data, from last year to this year. And it's down slightly, but not significantly. I looked at the last week in January. Last year we had 92% attendance. This year it was 90 overall for the district. At the elementary level, it went from 93% to 90. At the middle school, it went from 92 to 91. And at the high school, it went from 87 to 86.
Okay.
So that was for the last week in January of 2024 to the last week in January of this year, 2025. And then I also looked at the first week in February. Because often what had been a pattern for us before is that we would have an influx of kids at this particular time of year because of changing seasons in different countries. We have not seen that influx of kids that we've seen in previous years. But in terms of attendance for the first week in February, last year we were at 92%. This year we were at 87. So it's 5% decrease overall, which is a lot. But at the elementary level, it went from 93 to 88. The middle school, it went from 92 to 87. And at the high school, it went from 86 to 85.
But it has been a tremendous cold and flu season.
It has been, right?
No, I'm not trying to, I'm not.
Yeah,
trying to-
no, I agree. And so I don't know that I can associate those changes with any one particular issue. But I think it's, like you said, it's been horrible cold and flu season. People are more inclined to stay home when they're sick since we've had COVID.
Mhm.
Before, how many of our parents said, get dressed, you're going, I don't want to hear it,
Exactly.
right?
Could have an arm falling off.
Thankfully, and because we don't want everybody getting super sick, parents are keeping their kids home when they're sick.
Yeah.
So. So we have not seen a huge significant drop off. But I still monitor it. I get the attendance report every day from Jamie Flynn by school on what their percentages are, and we talk to the principals about it. We look at the trends over weeks and.
So how is a student considered attending school at the high school? Is it you're in first period or
Three or more classes.
3 or more classes?
For the daily attendance. And that's what we look at in our attendance report is the daily attendance. The attendance is taken every period.
No, I understand.
So their parents know, their parents can go into Power School and they know if if they were missed first period and came in second period or came in,
They get a
And then-
notification too for each period that.
They
they're-
do.
Yeah, no, I know
Or
that.
it's
I
like
was just curious how
1, 2,
DESI,
3.
how we report the DESI.
yeah,
The
Like,
daily.
for instance, I'm just saying, students in first period goes to class, doesn't go to the, just human, doesn't go to the other 3 classes. I don't know, walks around the building for 3 periods, just saying.
absolutely,
He's a DESI absence of the day.
yeah.
Yeah, so just so you don't have to do another data report for us, just whenever you report to Des, I'm curious to see what it's
Mhm.
looking like by then.
Yep.
That's all.
And one more thing, if I could,
Yeah.
I'm not dismissing that there could be a January 20th with the attendance, but it also has been, I mean, there's a lot of factors there, but I just want to mention the cold and flu, because a lot of people have been sick, my work and other places,
Yeah.
yeah. Read that in the paper every day,
Mhm.
okay.
Okay. Folks are okay with it, we can talk about 11B now as well. We have time. Mr. Kingston, that was yours.
I think it's because of the busing, because of the enormous amount of money that we're spending on busing. I really think it's time to have a discussion about eliminating the middle school lottery. I realize, and I've given this a lot of thought, I realize it only affect the 6th grade, because at least in my view, I wouldn't move a 7th and 8th grader, even if they lived across the street from the school. I just don't think that disruption would be a good idea. But I think for the incoming 6th graders, to try to settle them into the school closest to them. I think there's an opportunity there, not so much the first year to save a lot of money, but once it all filtered through, and that would take 3 years. I think there could be a tremendous cost savings, not shifting kids around, the city to go to a different school. I know there's some pros and cons to that, but I think, I'm worried about 3, 4 years from now, when maybe we don't have the money we have today, how we're gonna, basically foot that bill.
So are you envisioning, you said no lottery for 6th grade, or lottery for 6th, but not 7th and 8th?
Right, they would stay, I just think, that's
So
just
they
my
get
thought,
modified.
I'm not telling what people
We
to
don't
do.
have lottery for 7th and 8th though.
No, but I'm saying, if a student, we eliminate the lottery, but a student that may live across the street from the SBA in the 7th grade isn't going, going to Garfield
They
currently,
stay with their
isn't gonna
school.
be moved.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
Nobody would be moved,
So,
right?
so,
No.
so the
No.
cost savings,
It would-
so
it would
someone
have to
said to
take
me,
effect.
John, we're only gonna save X amount because we're only talking approximately 600 kids, a 6th grade class. So the first year savings wouldn't be that significant, but year 2, now you're talking, the 7th grade would be settled in their, I don't want to call it neighborhood school, but school closest to their home. And now the 6th grade would in 26, and then the following year would be all 3. So the first year savings would be minimal, I'll agree, but going forward, I think there's a
See some
potential to save
savings.
some money there.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, aside from the financial benefit to doing away with the lottery, I think the lottery doesn't serve the purpose it initially did. I see that we may have issues with what is considered, the neighborhood school for certain areas. But I guess that determination would have to be made. But I think, would you agree, Dr. Kelly, that the original purpose for the lottery system is no longer necessary?
No, I was just gonna ask you what you thought the original purpose was.
For me, I always thought it was because nobody really wanted to go to Garfield. People wanted to go to the newer schools, and people didn't want to send, if they lived, say, in West Revere, they didn't want to have to send their kids over to that neighborhood, to the Shirley Ave neighborhood.
Mhm.
At least that was my perception as a kid who I don't even know if I went through the lottery, but I went to Garfield and I lived way on Washington Ave, maybe I did.
Yeah,
But the point was to diversify the schools but I just don't think that diversification is necessary because all of our schools are diverse now.
Mm.
Whether there's still that sentiment about having to send kids to Garfield, I don't think that exists anymore. I thought that, in my opinion, based on what I heard from parents and from kids alike, Garfield was the middle school to go to this time around. As far as, the preferred choice.
It is the highest performing. I thought the reason was, because Susan B. Anthony School opened and it was so new and everyone wanted to go there.
I think that's part of it. It's the
It
new
is.
And
school.
Chairperson,
Now they're all basically, several years old.
Yeah.
Granted, Garfield is the oldest, but I don't think that stigma is attached to Garfield as it was
Madam Chairperson,
years past.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sinella.
I think this goes back a little deeper than last year, the year before. There was a program at the onset where they would go to the closest school. And once the schools filled up, then they had to attend the Garfield, whether it was whatever the reasoning. And the Garfield leadership would get the rest of the remaining new students. They felt it wasn't fair to get the influx of students halfway in the school year, not knowing what the grades were and all that jazz. So if you're looking into it again, you're going to have the same outcry. I'm in favor of keeping the neighborhood school. When I was at the Wayland, we had, people lived across the street and the parents put them on a bus to go down to the Garfield. There was talk that no one wanted to go to the Garfield. But you look into your administration, they're all new now, so I have no idea who or what. But you're going to have the same play out, because whether it's the Garfield or whatever school is going to have no room, then they're going to have to be bused somewhere. So I think I would look at my numbers first to see if that's adequate. They used to have an allocation. Kids from the Wayland so many would go, could pick the X, Y, and Z. The other schools could pick X, Y, and Z, and they try to filter them out. Naturally, everyone wanted to be close to their own, especially people moving into the area, buying a house next to a school, don't understand why they're being shipped all over the city. So I would recommend that the superintendent poll her principals and see if that problem still exists. It may not. There may be seats available. So, I mean, it was tried to work out time and time again. And the school committee president, which you people are attesting to now, and past school committees were always in favor of keeping them local. But it was mostly administration that wanted, whether they felt that the students coming in later weren't as bright, and then we have an abundance of maybe special needs or whatever. I don't know. But that's what kind of always put a crink into it. So for what it's worth.
Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Sinella. I'll have Dr. Kelly and then Mr. Caggiano have comments.
Do you want to go first?
No, but I was just gonna reach out to you and say maybe you could give us a breakdown of the students involved in the geographic area, and then we can look back at it again.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. There is still an imbalance in enrollment across the city. So if for an example, we were to look at, maybe Garfield Middle would be the neighborhood school for Garfield and Beachmont, and SBA would be the neighborhood school for Susan B. Anthony and Lincoln, and Hill and Paul Revere go to the Rumney, right? There's still a significantly different proportion of kids in those different areas of the city where there would be more kids going to SBA and Rumney than going to Garfield. So you still end up with the disproportionate class sizes that were really, all of the things you said, Aisha, were right. And Fred, you're correct also. Kids that move into the city often are coming from somewhat disjointed histories. And they don't necessarily have the continuity and education of the kids who have been in Revere from K through whatever grade they're in now. And so that presented a challenge when all of those kids were funneled into the Garfield because it had the lower enrollment. They ended up with a higher proportion of kids who had learning gaps that needed to be filled. And it's not that we couldn't fill them, but I would think that if the committee is going to go in that direction, you're going to have to think about giving more resources to the Garfield in order to help with that. Because what it did was it showed up in all of their MCAS scores and everything else, and they were struggling academically because of those challenges. But the other piece of it that I want to make sure we're considering is going to neighborhood middle schools doesn't mean that it eliminates all of the transportation, because you still have the kids in North Revere that will need to be transported because of the distance to the school. And the kids in the Point of Pines and outskirts of Beachmont would still need to be transported. The same as we do for the elementary kids right now, in order to get them safely to a middle school. we can look at that. It probably does, as Mr. Kingston said, eliminate some of the busing needs. Because right now we have buses going all over the city for any kid in the city who wants to take a bus. We wouldn't necessarily, if they live more than a mile away from their school. So I'm sure it would reduce some of that, but I don't know how significant that savings would be, because our internal non-special ed transportation isn't the bulk of our transportation costs. It's a very low percentage of the transportation costs. The expensive ones are for the kids who are outplaced in special education schools
Outside of the
and
district.
have door to door. That's where the bulk of the transportation cost is coming from. And that's a challenge we have to tackle. But the other thing that I like about kids getting to know each other at the elementary level, sorry, the middle school level, is that they're more inclined to get to know and like each other at that age than they are at high school. And when kids are sectioned off that way at the high school level, they come to high school and this is my crew from Garfield, and this is my crew from Rumney, and this is my crew from the Susan B. Anthony. And those kinds of differentiations among groups tend to persist instead of, oh, I know that kid from the Hill School and that kid from the Beachmont and that kid from the Paul Revere, because we all got to know each other at the Garfield Middle School. You lose all of that sense of community that happens when the kids come to know each other younger than high school age. So just, things to think about, but I'll take a look at the data and see what the numbers are in each of those 3 different regions. Do we agree that that's the right way that?
I think in general, the greater question is, in addition to transportation, is just, do we eliminate it? And I think we would need a bigger feasibility study, because like you said, we just go by the elementary neighborhood school, or we go by ward, like we'll have to be strategic, and how we divide it has to go beyond that, so we don't create that. So I think what we need is a bigger study of like what would be the best way to do it, so one school isn't overcrowded compared to the other, and then probably refer it to policies and procedures, because it's a policy that we're looking to amend, so that we can really like digest it. Like, I think we've talked about it so much, we're all looking to create a next step, that I think this is time to do the first one. So we could start with seeing what the division would look like if we went off of elementary schools, and then meet within our subcommittee and see if we need to order a bigger feasibility study for other options to divide, so then the whole committee can have that discussion.
And if I could just add, we should also think about the timeline for that, and consider the timeline of the new high school and what that means for this building as well.
Yes,
Because it may be counterintuitive for us to go through all of this to eliminate something that's gonna be eliminated anyway, and for which we have a solution here with a central middle school.
Yeah.
good
so-
point.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about it enough, so it's good to take next steps and see what actually has to happen. So thank you, Mr. Kingston, for bringing it up and prompting action, just because it will take time. It's figuring out how we want to divide it. What are the impacts of the new school? Then engaging stakeholders and seeing what they want to do, and then making sure we do this all in timeline for when the next ideal lottery would be, whether it's for next year or the year after.
I mean, can we also look at too, what's the cost associated with it? Because if it's minimal cost, why are we doing it? So,
Well, the first year would be minimal savings, because you're only talking one group, but as the years.
but I'm just
go on-
saying, even with the progression, if we can look at the 6th and then 7th and 8th, then we'll have a better idea of looking at it.
Yeah, I think the finances, I think we all can agree that we really need to be a little bit more conservative going forward in all areas, and just be mindful of our spending.
Anything else on this agenda item?
Nope.
Okay, well then with that, we can actually adjourn. So can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we are done. We'll see you all at 6 p.m.
Fred, we'll see you at 6.